Short films are usually confined to screening at film festivals or online releases. But a South Australian short film called The Palace has scored an unusual achievement. It's landed a cinema distribution deal. The Palace has already played in national and international film festivals where it's won a string of awards. Now the general public will get the chance to see it when it screens in cinemas across Australia. Leah McLennan reports.
The Palace takes place in Cyprus in 1974, at the time of the Turkish invasion. Writer and director Anthony Maras says he was inspired to write the story after interviewing refugees for a different project.
I'd heard this sort of story which shook me to my core about a mother forced into hiding with her children, and basically she had a baby that was about to start crying as these troops were surrounding the place that they were hiding. And kind of like Sophie's Choice, she had this immediate decision to make, to either let the baby cry and risk the consequences, or to sort of quieten the baby and risk suffocating it.
On occasion, the sound of gunfire could be heard echoing through the streets.
With a bit more research of real-life stories of the Cyprus conflict, Anthony Maras wrote a story that looks at the impact it had on both civilians and soldiers alike.
What was important was to show that there are really no winners in war. I've sort of found that from speaking to people who'd sort of lived through this sort of terrible period in history, it was kind of like both sides had these really sort of severe scars, whether they were Turkish Cypriots or Greek Cypriots.
The film quickly caught the eye of Adelaide producer Kate Crozer. She was working with Anthony Maras on a different movie when he dropped the script for The Palace on her desk.
I read it sort of that day and just rang up Anthony and said, I think it's the best short film script I've ever read. It was just absolutely leapt off the page, and I thought it was a really important story and fantastically written. So I said to him, why aren't we making this film instead of the other one?
The original plan was to shoot the film in South Australia, but Anthony Maras says as soon as he travelled to Cyprus, he decided that he had to film the movie there. They filmed it on what's known as the Green Line, a United Nations buffer zone which marks the ceasefire between Greek and Turkish sides. The filmmakers say they faced many challenges filming a recreation of the 1974 invasion in an area that still teeters on the edge of conflict.
Both sides, are still nervous about what's going to happen in the future. There's very little in the way of development, on either sides of that green line. So, you're walking down the streets and you see the bullet holes in the wall.
It wasn't just shooting in a conflict zone that created challenges for the filmmakers. They say the local authorities took a lot of persuading to allow them to shoot inside the palace of the Dragoman, the Ottoman official who once governed Cyprus.
The only problem is it's an archaeological, ethnological museum, and they were saying, look, you can't even move one placemat from here to there, and we had bombs going off and machine guns and people on the floors and all sorts of things. So it took a hell of a lot of convincing, to get us across the line.
Anthony Maras is an Australian with Greek heritage. He says he didn't want the film to be influenced by that, but to tell the story from both sides. But he does admit that knowing the Greek language helped him with one side of the filming while posing some problems on the other side.
It was maybe an extra hurdle I had to sort of get across in sort of convincing out the various Turkish people that we had on board in the project to come on board. But once they had read the script, of course, and had gone through my plans for how we're going to execute it, they came with open arms.
The Palace had its premiere at the Adelaide Film Festival. Since then, it's been shown at national and international film festivals, including the prestigious Telluride Film Festival in the US, and has won 2 Australian Academy of Cinema and Television Awards.
And the winner of the AACTA Award for Best Short Fiction Film is The Palace.
It won Best Australian Short Film at the Sydney and Melbourne Film Festivals, and the film is about to get even more exposure. It will play in Palace cinemas across the country before the Australian feature film Wish You Were Here.
The life of a short film is, maybe some kind of online release. You can sell to television, which screen at different times, but to screen in commercial cinemas it just doesn't happen in Australia. even made the news in the States. Like I had my agent in the States call me up and say, geez, you got theatrical distribution for a short? What the hell, man? And so
it's all about exposure. So we just want it to be seen. And you know, because it's a film about human rights and about a situation that we believe is important for people to sort of learn about and remember. The fact that it's going to be seen by all these people that go to see Wish You Were Here is just brilliant.
Anthony Maris says although it's an Australian film about the Cyprus conflict, since it's screened, he's been approached by people with similar tales of war. He says he's glad it's reaching a wider audience, as its story has themes for everyone.
Unfortunately, it's a common story, and you know, it's still going on around in the world in many places today. And I think that's where people can sort of hook into it.
Leah McLennan there.